One side of this image is Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 in quality mode, which delivers 30 FPS, and the other is performance mode, which targets 40 FPS. One side was captured from a 4K output from the dock, the other was hooked up to a 1440p monitor with the dock feeding it that resolution as output. But hey, can you tell which is which without me labeling them? I'm going to talk more about these shots later in the video, and I will label them, but if you can't, at least without pausing the video and squinting and maybe screenshotting and zooming in or some craziness like that, here's my next question for you. Does it even matter at that point? So, hello again, I am Blunty, and I'm prepping to do a full playthrough of Cyberpunk and Phantom Liberty on the Switch 2, all live streamed over on the Purple platform. And what I've slammed together in this video for you are just some quick and dirty tests that I'm doing for my own curiosity and to decide which mode I want to stream in. So this isn't really an exhaustive, techie deep dive in all this kind of stuff. Again, just kind of quick and dirty tests for my own purposes here. Oh, and while I haven't had time to record a nice hero shot for it yet, I did literally just finish 3D printing the awesome person dedication dock cover that I promised to make you guys with all of the names of the kind and generous viewers who threw some dollars at me when I hit a budget snafu literally days before the Switch 2 launch. So thank you so much to all of these people, without whom I'd have missed out on having this thing in time for launch coverage. You guys are my heroes. Lots more Switch 2 coverage to come, of course, so do make sure you subscribed and do the bell and all that sort of stuff. But first impressions of Cyberpunk on Switch 2 are astonishingly good, frankly, in a word, or in two words, I guess. But yeah, astonishing would be the word I would pick. Better than I'd even anticipated, even though I was anticipating a fairly good result because I've crawled through every frame of pre-release sample footage they gave us. I've had it in my editor. I did a bunch of comparisons side by side to the PlayStation 5, to the Xbox, to the PC, to the ROG Ally using Steam Deck's golden settings for SteamOS. It's not like I was unfamiliar with how this game was promising to look, but then I got it on my own screen and under my own control and I went, wow, this is really impressive. I think we might need a hotfix patch pretty soon though. One of my cloud saves, for instance, manages to crash the game the instant I try and load it. And I'm getting very brief hitching whenever a quick save is automatically made, and that is pretty annoying. That can't be allowed to happen like that. That's gameplay affecting stuff right there. That needs to be fixed really soon. But they did make one huge mistake, though. You know how we were all super impressed when Nintendo demoed Metroid Prime and how you can seamlessly go from mouse mode aiming to traditional control operation just by lifting up the Joy-Con from a surface? Yeah, CDPR didn't get that memo. They didn't think about that. They didn't implement it. In Cyberpunk, you can use mouse mode, of course, just like they promised, and it works really quite nicely, frankly. And it's shockingly intuitive with the left Joy-Con in hand and the right Joy-Con down on your desk in mouse mode. It feels really natural. But you are in mouse mode, as set in the settings menu, or you are in controller mode. Not both. You cannot seamlessly switch between them. If you're in mouse mode and you lift your mouse up, well, you just can't control anything anymore. The thumbstick does nothing. So my dream of an ideal hybrid control scheme, where driving, for example, is traditional thumbsticks, because mouse driving sucks, and all my shooting can be mouse mode, because mouse mode shooting is awesome, and achieving that just by putting the Joy-Con down on a surface or lifting it up again, ruined. Absolutely ruined. Massive disappointment, I've got to be honest with you. So I really hope CDPR patch in this functionality before too long, because it really is just a killer move. Outside of that, though, there's several unique control schemes that the other versions do not have, including, of course, motion-assisted aim, which even the PlayStation version doesn't have, despite its controller being capable of motion-assist stuff. And I really like how it's done here. This is a feature I often love or hate, depending on the game and how well it is implemented in each specific game. Here, they nailed it. It feels just right. The motion control stuff is indeed just as I predicted originally when we first saw some hints that this was going to be a thing. It is not full-on one-for-one motion control, so you're not going to be swinging your sword, in real space. It's more of gesture triggers, which not really my bag, but maybe one day I'll do some sort of gimmick playthrough on stream with it. It seems like it could be kind of goofy fun. And of course the touchscreen is active for handheld play, which I will likely just never use, because I don't even do this on my PC handheld gaming device. It's just too awkward, I find, to hold the whole thing with one hand while poking at it with the other. It doesn't feel great. But it is here if you feel differently than I do about this feature. Aside from the mouse mode disappointment though, again, it is an amazing job CDPR have done here, at least as far as, a couple of hours doinking around with it has shown me so far. It doesn't look or feel compromised as you might expect for a Switch port. I mean, we've had 8 years of expectations being set by various Switch ports of games that exist in other places, and they're usually fairly heavily graphically compromised or wonky in some way, or performance is a bit wibbly. But here it is just a really good port. So yes, as we were all hoping, I think the Switch 2 truly does mark a whole new era here for ports to a Nintendo device that aren't crippled in some dramatic way. Oh, and for those eager for a SteamOS and Steam Deck Golden 40s settings comparison revisit, now that we have the game in hand, here's a little bit of that. I'll be doing more testing along these lines after the weekend streams and whatnot, but just for your own curiosity, here's what an initial testing of that looks like. And just as I predicted it would, the Switch 2 demolishes here. It is just night and day. As a reminder, of course, this is the Switch in its docked mode, so it's capable of using its full power, just as I've got the SteamOS on my ROG Ally running in performance mode power here as well. So it is as apples to apples as you could hope for. That does raise the question of handheld mode, and I've not had much time yet, but if you're curious about handheld mode, in the 40 FPS performance mode, here is a snippet of gameplay I snapped using the Switch 2's built-in video clip capture, which, yes, just like the original Switch, is annoyingly limited to just 30 seconds per clip, and it is rather more heavily compressed than I'd have liked. It's like a third of the bitrate I would usually record 1080p in for the purposes of a YouTube video. And for some reason it's crammed into a 30 FPS file container despite the game being played in a 40 FPS mode, so they haven't accounted for that. But hey, it's something that's at least fast and easy to do, so I can squirt it into a video here for you. And sending it to my iPhone to offload it is also really nice and easy, very seamless. But please believe me when I say this is not representative of how the game actually looks in handheld mode. It looks like garbage compared to how the game really looks on the screen on the Switch 2 when you're actually playing it in handheld mode. Again, it is really impressive, like really impressive. And at some point in the not too distant future, I hope to put together a nice setup so I can get some really good looking, quality, clean, sharp, consistent footage of handheld mode gameplay for you, but again, stay tuned for that. But yeah, as for my streams, given how I feel about the testing I've done here, I'm thinking I will stick to the performance mode on my 1440p screen for the extra fluidity of 40 FPS. It's really nice. And without a side-by-side to pixel peep at, I'll be damned if I could quickly tell the difference. I had to triple and double check my file names to make sure I was doing the right comparisons and labeling here. But before I get to some sort of deeper dive testing, I imagine the biggest difference is probably a slight difference in LOD and draw distance, and probably it's running at a lower internal resolution to scale up from. But frankly, NVIDIA's DLSS implementation is so good here, I doubt many people would even notice. Certainly not while playing the game normally. And again, I ask you, if you can't even really tell without a bunch of side-by-side testing and some labels and zooming and pausing and stuff, does it actually matter in any practical way? I would say no, it doesn't matter, because the game matters, the gameplay matters. Is the gameplay good? Does whatever the settings are doing in whichever mode you're playing it affect gameplay in a significant enough way to distract you from the gameplay itself and the immersion, etc, etc, etc? No. So anyway, I hope you found this quick and dirty set of clips and comparisons and whatnot, and a bit of chatter useful, helpful, interesting. I am Blunty. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling away up above there. And I will catch you next time, and please, yeah, come along to the streams this weekend. We'll really sink our teeth into this game. I can hardly wait.
You simply do what is asked of you. I admire such an approach, and I know how to compensate it. Contract closed.